senior graduates may have been asked thousands of times over the last few years, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do with your life? And certainly our desires, the things that attract us, can indicate maybe what we're supposed to do. But I think a better phrased question is, what is God calling you to in your life? What is God calling you to? And within that question, how do I live my life as a blessing unto others? How do I use my gifts to glorify God and to bless others? This also means an openness to allowing God to disrupt your life plans. Being open to allowing God to disrupt your life plans. I think I've shared before bits of my own story, but when I set out into the world, I didn't originally have a plan necessarily to become a priest. Oh, it was there. Some people posed the question, but I figured, well, I'll get through college, I'll maybe date a few girls, see where life takes me, and then maybe I'll consider that priesthood thing. But it was when I was on a service trip to Chicago and sitting and talking to a homeless person, when I began to realize how blessed my own life was in comparison, and I thought, well, why did I get so lucky? And it was this moment, this turning point of realization that the blessings in my life and the gifts that I have aren't merely for me. There was a shift precisely of the question. Rather than thinking about what do I want to do, rather, what is God calling me to, and how am I to use the gifts and blessings that I've received in my life to be a blessing unto others? And so this openness to the call of God's life, which is opening yourself to the possibility of Him disrupting your life plans, following God is the grandest adventure of life that you can live. Now, we might hear this phrase that following God is a grand adventure, and we think, but this is just a bunch of boring rules. How is this the grand adventure? That's precisely the problem, isn't it? As long as our faith is reduced merely to a set of rules that I'm supposed to follow, merely a set of do's and don'ts, then it will only seem like a burden or a standard that you're failing. But rather, to look at our faith as the compass that orients us on our adventure of life, and following it to lead you to unexpected adventures. And more than that, our faith is not only an orienting compass, but it's recognizing that it's engagement with the Divine One with whom I'm in an active personal dialogue. This voice that calls me forth from myself, that calls me forth from my own comforts, my comfort zone and conveniences, into the discomfort of adventure. And this venture of following God is not only an external one that might lead you to different physical places you'll go in life, but interiorly of the heart. That there are chambers in our heart that we don't even know are there until we allow God to illuminate them. There are dark chambers in our heart that God will lead us, where there's darkness to be lit up, there's dragons to be conquered, where there's beautiful gifts and treasures that you didn't even know were there until God shows you. Allowing God to lead you in the wild adventure of the heart that will lead you in the wild adventure of life. But precisely what makes this an adventure is, well, part of an adventure is there are real dangers. Being lost, being wounded, deceptions that will lead you off a cliff. And that's why it's so important that this adventure is led by the voice of God. So what is the compass that orients my life? Is it merely my own desires or what I want? Or is it the voice of God? Who is the voice that I'm listening to? Because there are a lot of voices out there, and interiorly, that don't always necessarily have our best interest in mind, that promise happiness, but ultimately leave us empty and unsatisfied. So how do I allow God to be my true compass? How do I listen to his voice? As our gospel said today, Jesus says, "My sheep know me and they hear my voice. I know them and they follow me." And so, making this more practical, I want to propose to you, graduates, and for everyone here, 3 habits to cultivate into your life to tune into the voice of God, to allow him to lead you. 3 habits, especially since you're going to a different rhythm of life as you graduate. It's an opportunity to instill in yourself new habits. So 3 habits. 1, daily prayer. 2, weekly mass. And 3, regular confession. Daily prayer, weekly mass, and regular confession. And what do I mean by each of these things? Well, 1, tuning into God each day, daily prayer, especially with Scripture, the voice of God. Commit yourself to giving 1% of your day in intentional prayer every day. 1% of your day is approximately 14 minutes and 40 seconds, I think. So, 15 minutes, essentially. Sometimes we think, well, I can't give 15 minutes to God a day. But if we think about it, can I give 1% of my day in intentional prayer to God each day? We can all do that. 1% of your day in intentional daily prayer every day. And especially using Scripture. And if you don't know where to start in the Bible, start with the Gospels, the story of Christ. 2nd, weekly Mass. Every Saturday night or Sunday. Every weekend. Because built into the cycle of our life, having this intentional time that we go and allow him to speak into our life. Maybe if you haven't been in the habit of this, you go forth to make this a habit. All the hours of our week that we're bombarded with other voices, or all the hours of the week we spend, on whatever, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter. Can I give an hour of this intentional time to God? To formally, with the community, give thanks to God and ask for his blessing and to hear his voice. And thirdly, regular confession. The church encourages us, says we should go to confession at least once a year. Unless we're aware of a very serious sin, then we should go as soon as possible. The minimum of at least once a year. But I found in my own life, going more frequently has been an anchoring thing in my own life. At least, maybe 2 or 3 times a year, or every other month, or maybe even monthly, you might consider. But there's something about the regular habit of taking time to reflect how I've been doing in loving God and loving others. To step back, to reflect on that, to examine that and see, where do I need to ask God's help to love him and to love others better? Because there's something about speaking it out loud that makes it real, but also that we're reassured of the grace and mercy of God that's with us to help us to try to live better and love better. Daily prayer, weekly mass, and regular confession. I know they sound like pretty typical things, but I do truly believe, else I wouldn't be standing up here before you as a priest, that if we have these habits in our life, they truly do make our life better. They open us up to the leading of God's Spirit and will take us, as I said, on the greatest adventure of our life. Yes, out there in the world, wherever he may call us to, but also in the heart. So not so much what do you want to do with your life, but what is God calling you to? And I'll close with then this my favorite verse in the Bible, which is only a few verses before the reading we hear, this reading of Christ the Good Shepherd. In John 10:10, Jesus says why he came. He didn't come just so we could, be bored with this faith thing. Jesus says, I came that they might have life and have it to the fullest. So may you follow Christ the Good Shepherd and his voice to lead you on the fullest life you can possibly live. Senior graduates may have been asked thousands of times over the last few years, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do with your life?